Today, traveling the globe is substantially easier than any other time in history. Want to cross the Atlantic? Take a plane, boat, or the glorious rigid airship. Maybe not so much the last one. Either way, transportation across continents is easier than ever, but not easy enough. Say you lived in Argentina, but you wanted to vacation in London. Easy enough. But say you didn't want to use a plane or a boat. No, you want to drive there. Impossible, right? After all, you need to traverse South America, North America, Asia, and Europe to reach your destination. Well, sadly right now this isn't possible using roads, but that might not always be the case. Today I want to take a look at what would need to happen for this trip to be possible. Let's set up a couple ground rules. Imagine you have a passport that lets you cross every border. No problem. I'm not worried about gas or any other variables, just getting to each destination using roads. First off, we need to get out of South America and into North America. Easy, right? Well, no. At first, it would be relatively easy. After all, the Pan-American Highway goes from Buenos Aires to Mexico. There is, of course, a mild annoyance in our path. Assuming everything goes right the first 3,200 miles to get up to Central America, we have our first major roadblock. That is to say, there are no roads. The Darien Gap makes vehicle transport nearly impossible. This 100-mile-long patch consists of marsh, swamp, and rainforest. Construction of a road would be an arduous task, to say the least. At the same time, locals in the area are against any construction, fearing the loss of their homes and culture. As well, many fear that deforestation and cattle disease could spread due to connecting North and South America in this way. Okay, so no roads. We just power through it, right? Technically, in 1985, the first people traversed the gap using only a car, a CJ5 Jeep. To cross the distance of 125 miles, it took over 740 days, almost 2 years. Wonderful. Let's just say somehow you made it to the other side. Maybe a road crossed the gap, maybe you just drove 2 years. Doesn't matter. Welcome to Panama. So what now? Continuing on the Pan-American Highway, we find ourselves through Mexico and in Nuevo Laredo. Here the Pan-American Highway ends. Crossing north over the Rio Grande, we would be in Laredo, Texas. Here we find I-35. Why? Well, this road will take us to Duluth, Minnesota. After our nearly 1,600-mile trip across the US, it's time to get into Canada. Minnesota State Highway 61 to Ontario Highway 61, no problem. Now we're on to a rather long road, to say the least. The Trans-Canada Highway. While this road alone stretches almost 5,000 miles, we will only need to head to Dawson Creek in British Columbia before we get on the Alaskan Highway. This 1,400 miles of road was constructed during World War II for the purposes of national security. This gets us to Delta Junction in Alaska. Here is where another issue arises. It isn't uncommon for Alaskan cities to be isolated from other cities via road. And what is our next intended destination? Nome is no exception. The nearly 600-mile span to Nome from Delta Junction would require a 500-mile expansion to Alaskan Route 2. While this has been proposed, the price tag, well over $2 billion, doesn't make it seem too likely in the near future. Okay, so let's assume somehow we made it to Nome. I don't know, maybe some dogs pulled the car for us. We are here. Now all we need to do is get to Russia. This is the biggest issue that is faced throughout our journey, but not all hope is lost. A pessimist would say we need to cross the entire Pacific Ocean, which is true, but at the same time, from the Bering Strait. That distance is about 51 miles. At this point, the prospect seems quite interesting. You could drive from the USA to Russia with a long enough tunnel or bridge, and at the same time, it would also be driving across the Pacific Ocean. This concept is nothing new, and this is where I derail our trip to discuss the history of a Bering Strait bridge. I'm not sorry. The first concept of bridging the continents was with William Gilpin. In 1890, he proposed the Cosmopolitan Railway. Before the mass popularity of cars, the proposition was to join together the world via train. As part of this plan, he saw a future with a railway bridging the Bering Strait and allowing Americans to cross into Russia, and by extension, the entire Eastern Hemisphere. Of course, this didn't happen. Several more proposals were put forth and ditched relatively quickly. This all changed in 1905, when Tsar Nicholas II planned on a tunnel spanning the strait at a cost of $7.7 billion, adjusted for inflation. With World War I and the Russian Revolution, these plans were sadly cancelled. During World War II, as the Alaskan Highway was being made, plans were originally set to construct a bridge, but whether this would have been for the general public is unclear. With the dawn of the Cold War, political animosity became a far larger hurdle than the strait itself. But with the fall of the Soviet Union, the possibility has arose again of a road to bridge the gap. Pun definitely intended. Concepts have involved making artificial islands off the coast of each continent to high-speed rail lines, but honestly none seem likely to happen in the near future. It has been reported that Russia supports and intends to complete a $100 billion tunnel project. However, even if this is constructed, surrounding roads to Nome would need to be completed as well. At the same time, it's entirely possible the tunnel is just a railway and no way to drive through. Even if everything works out, it's over 1,200 miles to Kolyma Highway, without major roads to take us there. So you'll have to wait for construction on a major road or highway to get beyond northern Russia. Let's assume we've made it over the Bering Strait, and now we're traveling the vast Siberian landscape. Where do we go from here? Ideally, we head to Yakutsk. With winter temperatures usually below -30 degrees Fahrenheit, it's probably best to plan this trip during the summer, where we don't have to deal with thousands of miles of these conditions. From here, we are, luckily enough, stuck again. Yakutsk is separated from Highway M56, our destination, by the Lena River, of which is only passable by ferry. But at the same time, we're in luck, as a bridge is actually scheduled to be constructed in the next few years. Oh boy. Once we are on M56, we can drive south to the Trans-Siberian Highway. This 6,800-mile road, yes, that is correct, gets us to Europe, and now we find ourselves in Moscow. From here we take M1, which is a part of the grander E30 highway, a 4,000-mile highway that would take us pretty close to London. It's pretty crazy that one superhighway can get us from Moscow to Britain. E30 doesn't actually go directly into London, so we have to get off onto M25, and we are there. Not so bad, right? After 17,700 miles, you have made it from Argentina to London. If you drive for 12 hours a day at 60 miles an hour, it would take 24 days to complete the trip. One way. The likelihood of this trip ever being possible is slim to none. Political borders aside, getting across the Darien Gap on road doesn't seem possible anytime soon, and realistically you would be stuck in South America. If you began your trip in North America, the Bering Strait is the greatest obstacle, but you would be foolish to ignore the massive Siberian wilderness that awaits you on the other side. At the same time, it's pretty interesting to think that just with a few construction projects, albeit massive ones, you could potentially travel from South America to Europe by car. Will it happen anytime soon? Definitely not. But we can always hope. This is Cody of Knowledge Hub.